Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Sutojaya Mudirayet Nastapreshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Tamashloke Bhaktir Babadina Ishtaki. Hare Krishna, everybody. We'd like to welcome our guests, Jagovinda Prabhu, Hare Krishna, and your name again, Prabhu? Ramakrishna. Very nice. Not the Mayavadi, though. So we're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 24, song sung by Lord Shiva, text number 29. I hope everybody's feeling happy. And if you're not feeling happy, begin to feel happy, right? Because Krishna says we should give up lust, anger, and greed. These are the three gates leading to hell. So, yeah, lamentation is a form of illusion. So here we go. Let's see here. Read on my phone because I don't see very well. My eyes damaged right now. Swadharmanishta shatajanma vipuman virinchatam et param himam avyakritam bhagavato vaishnavam param yataham vibhuda kalatyaye swadharmanishta shatajanmi vipuman virinchatam eti tata paramhimam avyakritam bhagavato vaishnavam param yataham vibhuda kalatyaye swadharmanishta shatajanma vipuman virinchatameti tata paramhimam avyakritam bhagavato vaishnavam param yataham vibhuda Swadharmanishta shatajanma vipuman virinchatameti tata paramhimam avyakritam bhagavato vaishnavam param yataham vibhuda kalatyaye. Swadharmanishta shatajanmavi puman. Virinchatameti tata paramimam. Yakritam bhagavato da vaishnavam. Param yatam vibuddha kalayaye. Swadharmanishta shatajanmavi puman. Virinchitameti tata paramimam. Avyakritam bhagavato ta vaishnavam. Param yataham vibuddha kalayaye. Okay, word for word. Swadharmanishta, one who is situated in his own dharma or occupation. Shata janmabhi, for 100 births. Puman, a living entity. Vrinchatam, the post of Lord Brahma. Eti, get. Tataha, thereafter. Param, above. He, certainly. Mam, attains me. Avyakritam, without deviation. Bhagavataha, under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ata, therefore. Vaishnavam, a pure devotee of the Lord. Param, post. Yata, as. Aham, I. Vibuddha, demigods. Kala yaye, after the annihilation of the material world. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Chanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A person who executes his occupational duty properly for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. A person who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna or Vishnu in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of this material world. Please repeat. A person who executes his occupational duty for 100 births. Becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. A person who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna or Vishnu in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to the spiritual planets. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of this material world. Purport. This verse gives an idea of the highest perfection of the evolutionary process, as described by the Vaishnava poet Jayadev Goswami. Pralaya payodi jale drittavan asi vedam. Let us begin tracing the evolutionary process from the point of devastation, pralaya, when the whole universe is filled with water. At that time, there are many fishes and other aquatics, and from these aquatics evolve creepers, trees, etc. From these insects and reptiles evolve and from them birds, beasts, and the human beings are finally civilized human beings. Now the civilized human being is at a junction where he can make further evolutionary progress in spiritual life. Here it is stated, Swadharmanishtaha, that when a living entity comes to a civilized form of life, there must be swadharma, social divisions according to one's work and qualifications. This is indicated in Bhagavad Gita 4.13. Chaturvanyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashaha According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. In civilized human society, there must be the divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and everyone must properly execute his occupational duty in accordance with his division. Here it is described, Swadharma Nishtaha, that it does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra. If one sticks to his position and properly executes his particular duty, he is considered a civilized human being. Otherwise, he is no better than an animal. It is also mentioned herein that whoever executes his occupational duty, swadharma, for 100 births, for instance, if a Brahmana continues to act as a Brahmana, becomes eligible for a promotion to Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives. There is also a planet called Shivaloka, or Sadha Shivaloka, which is situated in a marginal position between the spiritual and material worlds. If, after being situated in Brahmaloka, one becomes more qualified, he is promoted to Sadha Shivaloka. Similarly, when one becomes even more qualified, he can attain the Vaikuntha Lokas. The Vaikuntha Lokas are targets for everyone, even the demigods, and they can be attained by a devotee who has no desire for material benefit, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita 8:16. One does not escape material miseries, even if he is elevated to the Brahma Loka. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. Similarly, one is not very safe, even if he is promoted to Shiva Loka, because the planet of Shiva Loka is marginal. However, if one attains Vaikuntha Loka, he attains the highest perfection of life and the end of the evolutionary process. Mamapetya Tukuntaya Punar Janma Navidyate. In other words, it is confirmed here that a person in human society who has developed consciousness must take to Krishna consciousness in order to be promoted to the Vaikuntha Loka or Krishna Loka immediately after leaving this body. Tvaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sarjuna. A devotee who is fully in Krishna consciousness, including Brahma Loka or Shiva Loka, is immediately transferred to Krishna Loka, mam eti. That is the highest perfection of life and the perfection of the evolutionary process. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Swapadantikam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopaka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavan Ishwari Vishabhanu Shuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatra Bhista Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's a very, very nice, beautiful verse and purport to discuss today in the Srimad Bhagavatam. How do we go back home, back to Godhead where there's no suffering? So where do we want to go? It's very important to understand this. This is something that many spiritualists, they have no idea where they want to go. In the beginning of our spiritual life, generally people don't understand what is the destination of the soul. They're not thinking about what is my next life? Because they're bewildered by sense gratification. Therefore, they're not considering what is the destination of me after the end of this body, which is one of the 5 types of illusions. And there's 5 different types of illusions, and one of them is to consider that the body is the self, and also another one is to consider, the circumstances surrounding the body, the all in all, which is the nature of illusion. So sometimes we can become caught up in the momentary circumstances of the body, what is going on with me in my life right now, and therefore we become bewildered and not considering the eternal benefit of performing devotional service. We tend to waver in our practice of bhakti yoga. When in reality we shouldn't, because we understand by intelligence that we want to go to Krishna, we want to stop this cycle of suffering. And we have to have our destination in mind. We tend to become what we worship, human beings. They become like who they worship. So many human beings are not worshiping anything. They're worshiping money, and they're worshiping materialistic society. They're worshiping lust. This is the religion of the age, is lust. We hear the chants of lust. We hear the music, the rap music. It's all about money and sex and drugs. This is the whole popular music these days. And don't even get me started on some of these songs that have actually been considered one of the songs that was considered the top song of the year, like 2 years ago. It was so degraded. I'm not going to even mention it in the Bhagavatam class, but it was that degraded, horrendously degraded. So people are becoming like that because they're worshiping their deities of money, George and Ben, and all the deities of money. And so they become greedy, lusty, and they're worshiping the celebrities, the people they call heroes, which are generally materialists. And all the people who are in leadership positions, especially in this country, are demoniac in nature. They are asuras. And so people are becoming like asuras because this is their worship. Men in the mode of passion worship the demons, Krishna says. And so we find that these asuric beings who are running the world are worshipped and loved and cherished and put on a pedestal because they're asuras. Whereas men in the mode of goodness worship the suras, or the demigods, the devotees of the Lord. So a famous verse, Yanti deva vrta devan pitrin yanti pitri vataha bhutani yanti bhutesha yanti madhyajinopamam. Those who are worshiping Yanti deva vrta devan, those who are worshiping the devas, they go to the devas. Pitrin yanti pitri vrata, those who are watching the pitris, they go to the pitris, or the planets of the ancestors. Bhutani yanti, those who are watching the bhutas, they go to the bhutas, the ghosts. And yanti maj yopi, those who are worshiping me, go to me. So Krishna explains this. So where do we want to go? We want to go to Krishna. Why do we want to go to Krishna? Because Krishna is the source of everything. He's the source of all love, all pleasure, all joy, all happiness. Krishna is the ultimate destination. And there's so many reasons we can give for that, but the easiest way we can convince you that Krishna is the ultimate destination is that Krishna says, Prabhupada quotes this verse, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetyata kuntena punar janma navidyate. That from the highest planet in this material world down to the lowest, all are places of suffering wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But for one who attains my abode, he does not take his birth again in this material world. So we want to stop taking birth and death. So when we attain the abode of Krishna, we no longer have to take birth. We no longer have to die. We no longer have to get old and get diseased. So this is impetus enough to become finished with the material energy. Why would I want to engage in this material energy? I can finish the whole thing off and go to the place where there's no more birth and death. So all are places of suffering. Even Brahma's planet, there's suffering. So from the highest to the lowest, all are places of suffering. And sometimes devotees can become kind of bewildered by these statements, these very vast and big statements, especially Western devotees. We never even heard of heavenly planets. And then all of a sudden we're exposed to these concepts of heavenly planets and higher worlds and higher dimensions. However, even in this life, we can understand, like we were discussing with my Guru Maharaj last night. We want to improve our material situation in this life. I'm going to get a better this, I'm going to get a better that, a better mate, a better house, a better job. And so in this way, the living entity becomes bewildered by making so many material plans. But all are places of suffering. This is Krishna's confirmation. So no matter what you do to adjust your material circumstances, there will be suffering. That suffering is completely unavoidable in the material world unless and until one becomes Krishna conscious. Therefore, our ultimate goal should be Krishna. And that's where intelligence comes into play. Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna says that the buddhi, the Buddhas, the intelligent persons, they're getting intelligence from Krishna because they're serving Krishna. Therefore, they have this intelligence to come to Krishna. So we become what we worship. We become what we meditate on. We become what we think about. Our thoughts become our actions become our character. Our character becomes who we are. And so the quality of our thoughts greatly determines the quality of our lives, and therefore we're impelled by our intelligence to think of Krishna. So an intelligent person has a plan. This is the concept of a devotee, is intelligence. So materialistic people are having polluted intelligence. Krishna explains that Maya attacks us in 3 strategic locations. She attacks us in the senses. The senses become agitated. And so Maya, she first attacks the senses, and then she attacks us in the mind. And then she attacks us in the intelligence. This is like war. This is tactical. Prabhupada actually uses words like this, strategic locations. Maya is occupying strategic locations in the body to bewilder the living entity, the intelligence, the mind, and the senses. So the senses, when they're bewildered, they are desiring the objects of sense gratification. So the eyes are desiring to see beautiful places. The tongue is desiring to taste beautiful foods, tasty foods. The body is desiring to touch beautiful things, soft things, to enjoy with other bodies. This is the senses becoming bewildered. Then the mind is bewildered. The mind is then presenting options. What is the mind's purpose? The mind's purpose is to accept and reject. So the mind is like a menu. Actually, the mind is our menu. It's saying, why don't you take this? Would you like this? Have some of this? How about that? And so when the mind is presenting us with options which are unfavorable and are bewildering us, the mind is saying, how about we go drink some alcohol? How about we go engage in nonsense? How about we do this? This sounds fun. Then the mind is under the influence of Maya. We're not purified in mind. And then lastly, the fall, and the most serious, is intelligence. Intelligence, when it falls, we are fully in the material world, because intelligence is what we're using to discern what we choose from the mind. So when intelligence becomes occupied by the armies of Maya, at that stage, our plans become based in Maya. Now I'm planning how to enjoy sense gratification. And so you find that the materialistic person, he's always thinking, how am I going to enjoy more? Well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to join the army, and I'm going to make money, and I'm going to do this and do so many things. They make all these different plans to enjoy sense gratification. If I only had this job, then I can get this, and then I'm going to get that girl. And there's so many plans they're making to enjoy. And you find when you're talking to a materialistic person, they're always in some plan, which always entangles them, and they never feel any peace. So intelligence is not innately bad, but when it's corrupted, it becomes bad. The mind is naturally in the mode of goodness. Intelligence is naturally in the mode of passion, according to the 2nd canto. But when the intelligence is corrupted, we're making these materialistic plans. So all intelligent people do have plans, even if they're materialistic. Even a good materialist is formulating a plan as to how he's going to achieve his goal of sense gratification. So if we're going to be spiritual, if we're going to act in spiritual life and devotional service, we have to also formulate spiritual plans. How are we going to serve Krishna? This is how the intelligent person in Krishna consciousness is thinking. So that word intel, what does it mean? It means knowledge. Like there's the Central Intelligence Agency. Right? What does the CIA do? They're listening to me right now, getting information. They are getting information about, whatever nefarious activities they're doing. They're gaining intel. So we need to gain intel. And what is real intel? Krishna gives us what is real intelligence. Humility, pridelessness, tolerance, nonviolence, satisfaction, etc. Krishna explains in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 8 through 12. He gives us what is real intelligence. And he says, besides this, there's nothing else but ignorance. So Prabhupada explains that the most important part of all intelligence is constant and unalloyed devotion to Krishna. And Prabhupada, in many lectures, he defines intelligence as understanding matter and spirit. Because real knowledge means understanding our constitutional spiritual position, and that's attained by these humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, etc., explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So real knowledge means understanding I'm not this body. And therefore, when we have that real intelligence or that knowledge relating to God, that is real intel. So real intel is what you're hearing in the Bhagavatam class. This is real intelligence, and you're increasing your actual intelligence by hearing this Bhagavad Gita. So we have to have intelligence to engage in devotional service, to not create material plans, but to create a plan, or Krishna says, Buddhi Baba, Tesham Satatam Yuktanam, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. So this Buddhi Yogam, Krishna is giving us this yogic intelligence, this spiritual intelligence from within so that we can come to him. So we have to apply this spiritual intelligence and then therefore elevate ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And therefore we worship Krishna. Intelligence would tell us that I want to engage in Krishna's service, not in the service of Maya, because the service of Maya hurts me, kicks me, makes me feel so much pain. She's always cheating us. How many of you have been cheated by Maya? I've been cheated by Maya. Maya's always cheating you. And you think you're I'm good, I'm not gonna go there. And then she cheats you again. And it's really embarrassing when Maya cheats you, because then you're there and you realize, you know what? I got cheated, man. How many of you have actually been cheated, like in India or something? You know, most always like I've been cheated so many times. Yeah, so then how does it feel after you get cheated by someone? You know, you just paid 400 rupees for a haircut, and you know, here.
400?
Yeah. You know, so you got cheated. Anyways, that's the whole story behind why that happened. I was shaving my head, and then the razor broke, so I just had a big, like, my hair was all lumpy, and it was a codicy, so I didn't realize it, so I couldn't find a barber, so I went all across Mayapur trying to find a barber, and then the only barber was there, and he's like, well, you know, you obviously need me, and, you know, it's going to be 400 rupees. It's not 60 rupees. You know, anyways, what can you do? For American, it's like nothing. It's the principle. Anyhow, it never feels good to be cheated. You get angry. And so when Maya cheats us, we become frustrated. And we lose our intelligence, right? Why do we lose intelligence? Krishna gives that process in the second chapter, right? From contemplating the objects of the senses. It's how it begins, this contemplation. How am I going to enjoy contemplating the objects of the senses? Lust arises. Now I really desire these sense objects. From lust, anger arises. Now I'm frustrated because I'm not getting what I want, which is all stemming from matsarya, from envy. Now I'm frustrated because I'm not getting what I want. And in that frustration, intelligence is lost and one falls down again into the material pool. So without intelligence, we're always swimming in Maya. So, yeah, we don't want to be cheated by Maya. We want to have intelligence and worship Krishna. Understand that this is not favorable for me. As much as my mind or my body are screaming, I want this, just stick with that intelligence. You'll train your mind, you'll win, and you'll become very happy. So then this whole verse, Prabhupada mentions this swadharma. It's very, very prominent in this verse, this word swadharma. Swadharma nishtaha. Swadharma means our occupational duty, or our duty, our swadharma. And we should kind of understand that in this age of Kali, especially for the Westerners, this conception of perfect swadharma is not possible. This is karma yoga. Karma yoga is very good. Krishna encourages karma yoga over all the other yogas except bhakti. Krishna says, you know, don't bother with gyan, don't bother with going to the forest, just perform your duty in the varnashram system. So civilized human life begins, Prabhupada's explaining, at this varnashram, chatur varnam. When we get this varnashram system, human life is beginning. But since we're born in America, there's no varnashram whatsoever. Everybody is below Sudra. We're not following any regulative principles here. Not counting the Nepali devotees here. But all of us who were born in America likely had broken every regulative principle before the age of 20. So, you know, in that in that sense. What? 20's a little. I was being liberal. Omar's pretty pure. So I was being liberal. So no, yeah. All the principles have been broken by the age of 20 because this is the nature of the conditioned soul, especially in these Malacha countries. So we're below the Varnashram system. So all the yoga systems can't even apply to one who's below the Varnashram system except Bhakti Yoga. It should be understood that Karma Yoga cannot be done if you're not situated in Varnashram. Because Varnashram means spiritual duties. Like Krishna says, perform your religious duty of fighting. So Arjuna's religious duty was to fight. Therefore, we don't have any religious duties. We don't have anything like that. In India there are some cases like that. So it's impossible for someone like us to perform this kind of swadharma. So this idea that Krishna that's being explained here by Lord Shiva, or by the who's speaking here? The Kumara Prachetas are speaking. The idea that, or maybe Maitreya Muni speaking, the idea that one does his prescribed duty for 100 births. He does his swadharma for 100 births. He becomes a Brahma. So we don't even have a chance. Our karma is in this sense that we don't even have a chance to do our swadharma because there is no swadharma. There's no dharma, or to speak of swadharma. There's only adharma. So there's no varnashram. It doesn't exist in the Kali Yuga. So our only real option is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti mama bijananti yavanyashtasmi tatvata. But on the other side, look at this. This is the process in the previous ages that I can do my duty for 100 births and then get to be a Brahma, and then from there go to Lord Shiva's planet, and then from Lord Shiva's planet I can go to the Vaikuntha planets. What to speak of going to Krishna Loka? But simply by performing bhakti mama bijananti yavanyashtasmi tatvata. Krishna says only by bhakti yoga I can be attained. Vishate tadanantaram, and at the end of life, one comes to the kingdom of God, having been situated in that bhakti yoga practice. Very wonderful to become situated, go to the kingdom of God. So this is all pointless, this type of focusing on our occupational duty. We do our duty, we become devotees. We have a duty where, we're a householder, we have our job, we have to make a living somehow or another. We can do that. But our main focus is not on doing that for God. Our main focus is on hearing and chanting. And Krishna gives us, a different kind of idea behind all that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamano smaram yidvicha maya pritamano budhir mameva shashya shamshayaha. That just perform your prescribed duty, whatever it is you're doing, just perform your prescribed duty, in this case, fighting, while at the same time remembering me in the form of Krishna. Very important that, Bhakti Yoga means to think of Krishna. To think of Krishna. He's so beautiful. Perform your prescribed duty of fighting, while thinking of me in the form of Krishna, with your intelligence and mind fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So we have that hope. So whatever we're doing, just think of Krishna. And all of these processes, whether one's doing their dharma, doing their duty, I'm very dutiful, I'm a very good person, I'm a very this, I'm a very that. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. Atra Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Paranishtayaha. The Krishna is saying, or Shukadeva Goswami is saying, Atra Sankhya Yogabhyam. Whether one does Sankhya, whether one is meditating and understanding matter and spirit, or whether one does yoga bhyam, or whether one does a swadharma paranishtayaha, whether one performs their duties properly. Janmalabha parapumsam, Janmalabha parampumsam, ante Narayanam smritihi. The ultimate goal is just to remember Narayan at the time of death. Just have no one but Krishna at the time of death. This is our real goal in life. Ante Narayana smritihi. Always remember Narayan at the time of death. So this is very important. And either way, there's a higher dharma, right? There's a higher dharma. There's a higher than whatever we're doing, whatever we think our duty is. Sometimes, like Darnell Prabhu or Divya Singha Prabhu was giving that joking excuse, is not in my nature. And that doesn't apply to the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas will do anything for Krishna. You can't say, oh, it's not my nature, Mataji. Can't do that, sorry. Can't do my service, it's not my nature. It doesn't work because we're surrendering to Krishna. We'll even do against our nature something for Krishna. Whatever Krishna wants, we'll do, even if we don't like it. That's surrender. That's a higher dharma. Savai pumsam paradharmo yato bhakti ardhoksajay. Haitu kyapratiyata yayatma suprasidati. Right? The supreme dharma, the supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which they can attain loving devotional service to the supreme transcendental Lord, Adhoksajay. Such service should be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Don't you want complete self-satisfaction? Doesn't that sound nice? No more suffering? So on the other hand, this Swadharma, there's a lot of verses with this word Swadharma. There's a verse that I think I've memorized. Very famous verse in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. Narada Muni speaking to Vyas is Twaktwa Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harir Vajana Pakvo Tapatet Tato Yari Yatrakva Babhadrama Buddha Mushyakim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmataha. There it is. So Krishna says, even if one Twaktwa Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harir, even if one abandons their Swadharma. So here we're hearing that if you do your Swadharma for 100 lives, you can become a Brahma. Or not even you can become a Brahma, you can go to the Brahma's planet. But Krishna is saying, or Narada Muni is saying, Twaktwa Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harir. Even if you abandon your Dharma to engage in the service of the Lord directly, I'm no longer interested in my Dharma. Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Pradityaja, abandon all Dharma and surrender unto me. Twaktwa Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Harir. So to Charanam, to the feet, to the lotus feet of Hari, even if one abandons their Dharma to engage in the service of Hari, at an immature stage, they may fall down. Bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yari. They may fall down at an immature stage, although there's no loss. However, one who is engaged in perfect Swadharma without devotion to Krishna, there's no gain. So if you abandon your Dharma to engage in devotional service and you fall down from devotional service, you've gained unlimited because you perform devotional service. However, even if you perform your duties perfectly, you're the perfect mom, the perfect dad, the perfect, you're perfect at your job, perfect king, whatever it is your duty is, perfect teacher, perfect temple president, that doesn't count because it's spiritual. Perfect president of the United States. Whatever you do, if you don't have devotion to the Lord, it's useless. Shrama eva kevalam, useless. So we have to engage in Krishna's service. And ultimately we should understand that nothing can compare with Krishna, right? I mean, Krishna is so beautiful. Krishna says, out of millions and millions of men, hardly one even endeavors to attain spiritual life. Hardly any even try. And out of those who try, hardly any of those ever achieve any real substantial progress in spiritual life. And out of those who achieve any substantial progress in spiritual life, hardly any of them know me. So it's very, very rare to know Krishna. It's very rare to come to this level of spiritual life. So it's always nice to kind of take a step back and have some, wow, gratitude because I'm here engaging in devotional service to Krishna. This is so rare. You don't meet people like this every day. You know, when I met the devotees, I remember thinking, I've never seen anybody like this. I've never met anybody like this. It was just kind of mind-blowing to me. These people are like, so there's something coming off of them. They have something. They got a twinkle in their eye. One time a guy at the restaurant came to me and said that. He's like a real redneck guy. He goes, you got a sparkle in your eye, boy. He said to me. Okay. Anyways, nothing can compare to Krishna. Krishna is so beautiful. He's so wonderful. And, you know, we can understand, even understanding, you know, this is all talking that, you know, someone, 100 births, perfect Dharma, they become a Brahma. Then maybe if they're more qualified, they become a Shiva. And the person who's directly surrendered to Krishna or Vishnu, he can go to Vaikuntha. So why not just go to Krishna. Don't bother with these things. Because we can always become bewildered in the higher planets. And in this universe, our Brahma is a pure devotee. But in other universes, Brahma is not always a pure devotee. So why bother with the higher planets? Why bother with improving our material situation unnecessarily? We should just focus on Krishna. And by just really engaging in this process of hearing of Krishna, that's all we need to do, is sit and hear of Krishna. Janma karma chame devyam evam yo veti tatvata tvaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna tvaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjuna. You attain my abode by understanding my karma, my activities and my appearance and activities, my birth and activities. You go directly to Krishna's abode and you play with Krishna. You can dance with Krishna. You can be friends with Krishna. But Krishna is the highest love. It's the highest and the sweetest form of the Lord. It's the original form of the Lord. I was hearing the Namras podcast, and he has different people on there. I don't really listen to him that much because he gets a lot of controversial stuff that kind of gets me down into the modes. But he had one devotee there from the Bhakti Marg people. Not the Bhakti Marg, not Bhakti Marg Swami, but the Bhakti Marg. They're followers of Paramahamsa Vishwananda. And I see those people all over Vrindavan, the Vishwananda people. And I've seen, when I was becoming a devotee, I was kind of interested in like Vishwananda. And he seems like a Vaishnava, like I really, hearing he speaks from the Bhagavatam, he was tilak, and sweet, sweet mannered. So, give him all respect, seems like a Vaishnava. And I was, wondering, I was wanting to ask these people, and what is your philosophy? What is the deal here? And so he was interviewing one of their leaders, the big, not Vishwananda himself, but one of the big leaders of them, and one of the, the swamis in that movement. Essentially, it's kind of its own thing. He was initiated, the guru of that movement was initiated in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, but he kind of read into different Vaishnava Sampradayas and kind of, added certain aspects of even Gaudiya Vaishnavism and, Madhva Acharya. He added certain aspects in that he resonated with. But it is following Vaishnavism, but it's not exactly like Ramanuja, not exactly in that line. But they, they have regulative principles and so forth, and not exactly as strict as ISKCON. But they were just speaking philosophically, and one of their big philosophical things was that he said, their belief is that, of course, Krishna is not the highest. The highest is whoever you feel attracted to. All of the Lord are equal. And all of the rasas are equal. And he was saying, isn't that Gaudiya's belief, Madhurya rasa is the highest? And Namras said, yes, unfortunately, because there's a qualifier in the nectar of devotion. Yes, Madhurya rasa is the highest, but it's not the highest from the perspective of the heart. It's the highest from the perspective of analysis. Madhurya rasa is the highest in the sense that it has the most exchange, or the loving exchange of the gopis and Krishna. That's the most dynamic rasa. But any relationship you have with God, that you have with God, is the highest for you. So it's not the highest. They're all equal, but it's the highest in terms of analysis. And that's what Rupa Goswami actually says. So Namras didn't say that. But they don't believe that Krishna or Goloka Vrindavan is the highest planet. They think all the forms of the Lord, of Vishnu, not demigods, but of Vishnu, that's against what Shastra says. Ete chamsha kalupamsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. And Rupa Goswami explains that Krishna has these four beautiful qualities that Narayan doesn't have. Rupa Madhuri, Krishna's beautiful form. Krishna is the most beautiful form of God. He's the original form of God, and he's the most beautiful form of God. Vamsi Madhuri, Krishna plays the flute very beautifully. No other form of God does that. Bhakti Madhuri, Krishna's devotees are the most beautiful. I'll fight with anybody on that one. No one's sweeter than devotees of Krishna. Because devotees of Krishna, you become what you worship. You become like what you worship. Krishna is the sweetest. So Bhakti Madhuri. Leela Madhuri. Krishna's leelas are very sweet. Krishna's activities, Krishna's exchanges and dealings with his devotees are the sweetest. So Krishna is so sweet. He's the highest love. And by understanding this Krishna, meditating on Krishna, one becomes very, very happy. One becomes fearless. When you hear the Krishna book, you hear all about how sweet Krishna is. This fearlessness that the devotees have is so powerful. The devotee is so fearless because of this confidence and this friendship with Krishna. Just like the cowherd boys, right? They saw Aghasura. Aghasura is very terrifying. 8-foot long serpent. 8-mile long serpent. Yeah, 8-mile long serpent with, massive shape-shifting demon coming to kill the cowherd boys. And the cowherd boys see this serpent, it's coming on the road and its mouth is open. And the cowherd boys are going, yes, that this fishy smell, that's his intestines, and his upper lip is as tall as the sky, and his tongue is like a roadway. And the cowherd boys go, why don't we go inside? Certainly he can't eat all of us. And even if he could, Krishna's with us. It's always my joke that if any of us saw an Aghasura, we'd probably need a new dhoti. Aghasura is very scary. So what do the cowherd boys do? They go into the mouth of Aghasura. And of course they become sick from Aghasura's toxic nature. And they pass out. But then Krishna thinks, Krishna says, I gotta save them, because Krishna is so friendly. He loves his cowherd boyfriend so much. He goes in and he saves them and he kills Aghasura. And you hear too that Krishna was playing with the cowherd boys, and Krishna was playing so nicely, and they're playing all day, playing with God. This is God himself. He's playing. And then Mother Rohini, she says, Krishna Balaram, come home. It's time for lunch. And they say, no, I'm not going to come home. They just want to continue playing. So they keep playing. And then Mother Yashoda comes and she says, you must come home. So Krishna says, okay, I'm coming home. And the cowherd boys go, Krishna, you were leaving us just as our playing was reaching its climax. Therefore, you know what, Krishna, we're not going to play with you anymore. We're not going to play with you anymore, Krishna. And so Krishna feels very sad and hurt that the cowherd boys are saying, I won't play with you anymore. So Krishna comes, he runs back and starts playing with the cowherd boys more. Finally, Nanda Maharaj comes and says, all right, come home. Dad has to come out. Actually, Mother Yashoda says, all right, I'm going to have to tell Nanda Maharaj if you don't come. And Krishna finally comes home. This is the sweetness of Krishna Leela. That Lord Vishnu, he's acting like God. He's being worshipped. Everything is emanating from him. He's maintaining everything. Very nice. You can worship God that way. But Krishna's deeper. They're playing with Krishna. Mother Yashoda, she was churning butter. And what was it? Krishna wanted to breastfeed Mother Yashoda. This is the supreme Godhead himself. And he's aware of everything. He's omnipresent. Yet he's playing in these roles out of love. And so he wants to be fed by Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda comes and begins to breastfeed Krishna. No, she was churning butter. And she's boiling milk. The milk was also boiling. Yeah. That's later. But so then she's realizing she has milk boiling. And the milk was actually thinking, if Mother Yashoda's breast milk is going to Krishna, everything's conscious in the spiritual world, remember. Everything is alive and conscious. And so Mother Yashoda is giving Krishna milk. And so the milk in the pot was thinking, there's no use for me anymore. This milk, Krishna is drinking Mother Yashoda's milk, and therefore I think I should kill myself. So the milk decides to go into the fire and jump into the fire. And so the milk starts boiling over, and Mother Yashoda gets up to go turn the milk off. Krishna becomes very angry. His eyes become red. He smashes the butter pot and runs and goes and feeds the butter to the monkeys. This is the Supreme Brahman. However, acting in the form out of love, he's becoming subordinate to his devotees. So this Krishna is the highest love and is the highest, most beautiful form of the Lord. Undoubtedly, shastrically. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna is the original personality of God, is the original person. And so I'll just end with this, that sometimes we can think that, as the Bhakti Marg people, from what I heard, it was Bhakti, but it was, they're not so focused on this Krishna. But this hear this verse. Of course, I know the verse, but there's a nice purport. Prabhupada says nicely in the purport. Verses Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Mad Yajimam Namaskuru Mameva Shashi Shatyam Te Pratijani Priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. Krishna is speaking to us. You're my very dear friend. You're very dear to me. Therefore, always think of me. Always meditate on me. Become my devotee. Worship me. Love me. And Prabhupada says here nicely, the most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have a chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. Notice how many times Prabhupada says Krishna. Same. All those who don't want to say Krishna. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and attain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words stress that one should concentrate on his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feather in his hair. This is it. Prabhupada says, the Lord has multifarious forms, Vishnu, Narayan, Rama, Vraha, but a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is thus disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna. So this Krishna, very, very confidential, very rare. We're not knocking all the other stuff down, but the Shastra explains that this Krishna Lila, this being absorbed in Krishna Lila, this devotional service to Krishna, this desire to go to Goloka is so high, it's so beautiful, so powerful, and it's so difficult. But in this age, it's very easy because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All you have to do is chant Hare Krishna and engage in the process of Sankirtan, chanting, dancing, feasting, talking about Krishna, and all perfection is attained. It's joyful. And much as our false ego may be shaved in the process, we're going to be sometimes very upset, very mad, might have some challenges. Always remember, it's not surely outweighs everything else. So Krishna is going to test us. But if we really have to make Krishna the goal of our life, we want to, then we can pass all the tests. Okay, any questions, briefly, comments? Omar, I wonder why. Not like Omar asks a lot of questions.
Thank you for your class. My question was, it seems like trying to go to Goloka Vrindavan seems similar to the concept of like trying to go to heaven.
Yeah.
And also it's like, if you're in heaven with Krishna having fun, or like in Goloka Vrindavan, just having your pastimes, like, is that really, would Krishna like that more than someone who's like in the material world, like trying to like, get conditioned souls to come to Krishna? Like, why is one going to heaven more preferential than?
There's no preference for a devotee. For Lord Chaitanya says, I don't even desire liberation. I don't desire to go to Goloka Vrindavan. I just desire your causeless devotional service birth after birth. The devotee's desire to go to Goloka Vrindavan is a spiritual desire, not because he wants to go enjoy, but because he wants to serve Krishna without impediment. You have to understand the process of bhakti, that in the due course of time, by hearing and chanting nicely about Krishna, one is awakened to certain spiritual identities. He becomes attracted to a certain rasa with Krishna. And inside his heart, he begins to live that rasa, like a gopi or a cowherd boy, and serve Krishna in that way, in a very intimate way, not in this way. He's serving Krishna very nice world. He's massaging Krishna. He's, making Krishna laugh. He's playing with Krishna. He's serving Krishna. He's not thinking, I want to enjoy. But that desire to serve Krishna in such a way naturally takes him to the spiritual world, if that's what Krishna wants. Now, Krishna also says, no one's more dear to me than he who preaches Krishna consciousness in this world. And so those people who are at that level generally do preach Krishna consciousness. Now, if Krishna says, I want you to stay here, the devotee would say, yes, I'll do whatever you want, Krishna. And the Krishna might say, I want you to come home with me. Then I'll do that. But the desire to go back to Godhead is I want to go enjoy, I want to get out of here. It's based on I want to serve Krishna there. But at the beginning, we have to come to Krishna through one of the four reasons. We have to understand that there's suffering. We have to want to extricate ourselves from suffering. That's the beginning stage. That's pious. We're not pure devotees yet. And as you develop, but for a devotee, it's not just, I want to go to Godhead so I can get out of the suffering. For a devotee who's actually at that level of serving Krishna, there is no suffering. Yeah, next question. Kirtan Prabhu.
Just to continue to that point, we are like returning Goloka Vrindavan is not we want. That this is where you are from. So going back home is not a desire. It's a natural thing. But going to heaven is within the material world. We are traveling, try to enjoy better than here. So that is material desire. So when you go back to Vrindavan, it's your home.
Yeah, also a nice point is that going to Vrindavan is a change of service. I'm serving here. Like, what are we doing? You know, Pujari, feeding Krishna, offering Krishna, waking Krishna, feeding Krishna. In the spiritual world, what are you doing? Feeding Krishna, serving Krishna nicely. Well, this is the same, just a change of service. Such a devotee, actually, who's really up there. He's already in Goloka Vrindavan.
And devotees, sometimes they voluntarily give up idea to go back in order to preach the glories of God here. That's why they don't care going down hell or heaven or whatever it is.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, one question I had. We also discussed here about Sadashiva, Shivaji's Loka, Kailash, right? Then that is in marginal, right, position, right?
Yeah.
The living being going there again have to come back to this world, right? And should practice Krishna consciousness. Then only those people can go home back to Godhead, right? So in somewhere we find Shiva Loka is also spiritual, right? Somewhere marginal, right? So
Yeah.
from the scriptures, okay, can you please explain?
Well, that's something I'm coming to understand, especially from reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you read the Adi Lila very closely, it can kind of be understood. There's different Shiva Lokas. Also in the Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, in that book, it's also understood nicely. There's the Shiva Loka in this world, Kailash, and that's Kuvara is there. And then there's the Sada Shiva Loka, Krishna's abode, Kailash. And then there's a spiritual Shiva that's actually Vishnu, but it's called Shiva, from which everything's expanding. And so the Rudra of this material world that comes out of Brahma's eye, he's here in this world. He's destroying everything. He's one of the potencies. He's an expansion of this Sadashiva, the Supreme Lord Shiva, who's a direct expansion of Vishnu to, like in the Brahma Samhita, it says, like Shambho, the glance of Krishna personified is called Shambho. And that glance is how Krishna's, or Vishnu is touching the material energy, agitating the material energy, creating the material energy, and making this world manifest. And so, from what I understand, Sadashiva is outside of that material. He's more transcendental. And that's why Advaita Acharya is considered Mahavishnu and Sadashiva, because they're practically non-different expansions of Sankarshan. That's all I can give you. It's all in the CC, but I'm not really adept enough to kind of speak it. That's all I can really say on that matter. I think we're out of time, but I can kind of discuss a little more afterward. Thank you for a nice question.